welcome to Pursue the Pull, the podcast that is geared towards helping people who are looking for a career change or for those who want to pursue their dreams and start their own business. Now, we have interviewed numerous business owners from a range of different industries, but we also do interviews that help you prepare for entrepreneurship. And we've interviewed people like business mentors, individuals that focus on well-being, how to adjust your mindset, how to build wealth. And we've also done interviews on money matters. Now, today I'm doing a little bit of a different type of interview, and I am here to interview Professor Godfrey Grech, who is a renowned oncology researcher and health innovator. And I truly believe that a healthy body leads to a healthy mind, and both are key contributors to wealth. So first of all, I just want to thank you so much for joining us, Godfrey. I'm so excited for the insight that you're about to give us.
Thank you for the invitation, Stacey.
No problem. Okay, so look, before we go into the questions that have been devised by our audience, I do want to give the audience a little bit of background into what it is that you actually do. So, as mentioned, you are a renowned oncology researcher and health innovator, and you currently hold the position of a professor at the University of Malta, ambassador of the European Lifestyle Medicine Organisation, and expert evaluator at the European Commission. In addition to the local and international impact of your research, you have a highly effective approach to public outreach, providing knowledge on lifestyle interventions to prevent diseases. Now, your entrepreneurial skills have led to innovation of health programs aimed to resolve chronic inflammation using test-based approaches, and your academic work actually focusing on pioneering research in colorectal, these long words, I probably will get a few wrong along the way, lung and intestinal function. Now, you are highly respected in the research sector and have made significant contributions to the field of oncology, and your dedication to advancing cancer research and your leadership in international scientific committees, including the European Lifestyle Medicine Organisation, make you a prominent figure in the global medical community. So look, this is amazing. There's a lot to unpack here and a lot of things that I know you're going to go through with us. So, to start with, can we just go through your background? Tell me where this all started, because there is an entrepreneurial element to yourself. And how did you get into this? Did you study and then go to work and then go down this path? Or where did it all come from?
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a long set answer. But let us put it in a shorter version, right? Yeah. So I studied molecular pathology, which is basically looking at the mechanism of disease. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So as from there, I've set up a laboratory and research teams at the University of Malta, currently being a full professor at the university, and run research projects. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that started, of course, it involved a lot of study, okay, and we still study all the time. So that's a lot of reading and a lot of publications and also a lot of collaboration internationally. So we don't do this alone, but we do this in collaboration. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've been collaborating with various institutions throughout Europe, including the international agencies of research in cancer, where we looked at all types and all progression stages of cancer. So my main current work is on colorectal, as you very well said. We look at patients and classification of patients, but also I am really looking into right now prevention. Also because we can prevent a lot of cancers, but it's important also not only to prevent disease, but also to enhance our health. So we take action before we burn our fingers with a match flame, with a flame. So, and this is where it all started. The idea is, let's see the problem, the cause, before it actually results in a condition.
Mm.
And this is where my main innovations currently are, setting up health programs in clinical settings and in health settings, so that we prevent conditions, or else
Mm.
we actually reverse conditions that are present
Yes.
and are still not a disease. So this is also extremely important. And working with intestinal function has been a rewarding aspect in this health programs.
So tell me, so I mean, we've had a lot of questions, obviously, and there's so many. It's difficult for us to kind of be focused and try and get all the answers that everyone's asking questions about. So I'm going to kind of ask you questions based on the ones that we've had the most interest in. So intestinal function, explain what that is.
Okay, very good. Again, I'll try to do this as simply as possible. So,
Yeah.
when we have, of course, when we are having nutrients, yeah, the nutrients need to break down, yeah, and when they break down, they produce other chemicals that we need, yeah. So the body works with chemicals derived from nutrients, and we need two main things that is extremely important, which we call together intestinal function. We
Okay.
need a well we need an engine that works well. Yeah? The intestines is the engine. Yeah.
Yeah.
We need the fuel, good fuel. So we need to balance our diets and also include some diets as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the engine depends on the inflammation state of the intestine and also depends on the microbes that we have in the intestines that are actually converting most of these nutrients into the right chemicals that we need. So, in terms
Mm-hmm.
of health, then we start talking about metabolic health, metabolism, the right ingredients that you need to produce the right chemicals for the human body to work properly. And this is where we're delving into. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
in terms of producing the right things, depending on the right condition of the intestines and also the right nutrients. And this is where our health programs are actually have the focus on. Okay, so this is an important aspect. So that's intestinal function. Of course, if we had to put some metrics, you know, if you think about the human body is made up of like 30 trillion human cells, we have more than 100 trillion microbes in our intestines, in our large intestines only, which are doing all these metabolic changes, these
Mm-hmm.
changes of nutrition to chemicals that we need that are health promoting as well. Yep. So
Yeah. So
thank you.
what are the symptoms of damage, if you like? What symptoms would one have?
Yeah, well, there's again quite a long list. So if we look into sort of dysfunction of the intestines, then we look at metabolic syndromes, metabolic
Mhm.
conditions, leading towards metabolic diseases, which are, example, diabetes, obesity. So these are metabolic syndromes, diseases. Then we also have inflammatory diseases of the bowel, like inflammatory bowel disease. Of course, we want to find the cause, which is a pre-disease, which is in general even taken as an umbrella of what we call irritable bowel syndrome,
Yeah, I was going to
which
say, is
is
that
a
IBS?
lot of,
Mm.
yes, IBS, yeah, which is a big umbrella. And with the, unfortunately, with the clinical setting, because it is not a disease, it's not diagnosed. So it's diagnosed by elimination. And we were pioneers actually in setting up a program, a health program, to find the cause of the irritable bowel syndromes by looking at the disbalance that there is of microbes in our intestines, because that is basically the cause is a disbalance in the microbes in our intestines, producing inflammation, okay, which is chronic, and therefore we have all those symptoms. But the list is much longer. One of the things, for instance, if you think about the emotions and the moods, where are these chemicals being produced that we need to rebalance our moods and emotions, and also how the brain works, and all these dopamine, GABA, we hear all these nice names, of chemicals. Well, that's all produced in the intestines. And if the intestines are not working well, that's why we have anxiety. That's why we feel more pain. That's why, so all these emotions are also related to intestinal function.
Mm.
The autoimmune disease, the intestines is a school of immune cells. And therefore, if there is a dysfunction, these immune cells are not working properly, and we start having joint pains, muscles. So it is really the central part of our metabolic health, which relates to various functions in our body.
So what is the trigger? Look, I do think I have experienced a bit of IBS. I'm being serious here. I do think I have experienced a bit of it. And a lot of people have said that, okay, it is down to what you eat. It's also down to stress. It can be different things, because sometimes it's worse and then sometimes it's not as bad. And then when I change my diet, sometimes I can see that it's better. And then sometimes again, it's worse. And also, sometimes there's, you can be constipated, or you can be going all the time. So what is it that, is causing all of this? Is it changing diet? Is it stress, or is it a mixture of both?
So as I said, if there is a disbalance in these microbes, and therefore for instance, the intestines, that has an autonomous nervous system. Okay, we cannot control when we have bowel movement. Okay, bowel movement is an autonomous kind of, and therefore it produces all these chemicals for its own nervous system, its autonomous nervous system. So if we cannot produce these because there is a disbalance of bacteria, okay, then bowel movements are affected, and therefore we have constipation, right? Or we have diarrhea. Depends what the disbalance is. And this is what we do in our health programs. We actually test the disbalance of these microbes, but we test only a portion that we can act on, and that they produce these particular chemicals. Okay, so we are actually looking in detail on the cause of these disbalance in producing chemicals and health promoting chemicals. So yeah, it's not changing diets, it's balancing diets and providing the right ingredients so that we rebalance these microbes. What we eat is important for us to produce energy, that's true, but there's another big sort of important function, is that we provide these microbes that we need to produce our health promoting molecules and compounds with the right ingredients as well through diets. So that's also important. Diets is only one aspect of lifestyle medicine. Diet is one aspect. We have also exercise, we have social connection as well, which is extremely important and therefore relates then with the production of specific chemicals important for mood, anxiety, depression, pain. Okay, so social connection has a very important aspect to it as well. Sometimes we don't say we treat, but we say we restore or resolve, because we don't give a specific medicine. But if we start prescribing social connection without alcohol, it's important to add that. So that is an important prescription. Why should we take a medicine in that case? We can actually prescribe to social connection. For instance, we organize events for IBS. Maybe you mentioned IBS, but we do it for other things. Okay, for IBS, what is a good social connection with them? To get IBS people together because they talk
Really?
about their experiences, and that's what we do in communities. And we do it because it's part of the prescription of lifestyle medicine. Okay, so
Wow. So a lot of people go to these events and they all talk to
yeah,
each other
so
about their experiences and like what treatment they've done and what's worked for them and what
yeah,
changes they've
we talk
made.
about we give them information about intestinal function, what can go wrong, how can we deal with it, and then we set experiences. We ask for their experiences. They share that social connection. Social connection, there is a whole science to it. We produce chemicals that are important: dopamine for motivation, endorphins for sense,
Wow.
oxytocin for belonging to something, which is extremely important. It's important to have a belonging to something, which helps you produce the right chemicals. So it's not only diet is extremely important. Exercise is also extremely important. But we have other aspects like social connection and other levels, which will take us more than our time allocation today.
So it is like if you've got it and you're suffering, it is reversible. And if you don't treat it, like how bad can it actually get? Because I think I've had it for quite a few years, if I'm honest with you, and haven't really done much about it. I've been told go on a high fiber diet and try and eat certain
Yeah,
things.
that's true. So, but what we do, so the entrepreneurship part
Yeah.
of our programs and the innovation part of our program is that we test. So we always say we measure and we intervene and we restore. Those are the path that we always take. All
How
right.
do you
So the
test?
important thing is we do measure. We have various tests depending on the program that we are
Okay.
looking. For instance, if we keep to the IBS story, all right, we measure specific lipids in blood by finger prick. We read all these nice omega-6, omega-3, omega-9 saturated fats in blood, which is important to balance, to resolve inflammation. And also we take stool test, a stool sample, and we read 50 families of bacteria in the intestines that we need to rebalance to find, to resolve the inflammation as well. So it's not about giving the same protocol to everyone. It's very
Yeah.
personalized. We generate a lot of data, and from that data we do an individualized approach towards what is required in terms of prebiotic. We call them
Yeah.
prebiotic plans, ingredients, specific ingredients for specific increase in for specific bacteria or microbes in the intestines. So yeah, it is the nice thing is that program. It's a whole program that you it is like we cannot just do one thing and it's solved. It's not possible. It
And
takes
you offer this
a
program
complex
to
intervention.
everybody. You offer this program to anyone. Anyone can take this program.
Well, what we do is I innovate and then of course we execute. We have a program that runs in a clinical setting as well. So we actually
Okay.
provide the service in private hospitals, but we also provide services in private clinics. Not so there's a difference between hospitals and clinics, so in private clinics, and we also I mean, we have various programs. So some of them are related to restoration of the chronic inflammation of the intestines, but related to IBS, for instance. Others related to PCOS, polycystic ovary. Others are related to menopause, menopause,
Yeah.
and others are related to immune dysfunction. And immune dysfunction is interesting because immune dysfunction, we find a lot of disbalance in the bacteria in the intestines. We restore them, and then I mean, there is the rebalancing as well of the immune function. So it depends on the clinic and on the setting
Mm.
in terms of programs. That's my sort of job to
Yeah.
make sure that we innovate by measure, intervene, and restore. So that's our three three
Wow.
pillars.
And so you talk about this metabolic balance. How do we what kind of, I know it's different for everyone, but if you was to kind of say, what kind of foods could we be eating to help maintain the correct balance? I know there's other things you mentioned that we should be doing, but food is one part of it. So what kind of food can help with that?
That's an interesting question because it always depends on the data that we have in front of us. So we
Uh-huh.
really look into the disbalance, and according to the disbalance, we provide specific ingredients, yeah, for to include in a balanced diet. So the first thing is to balance the diet. Second thing is to start the diet interventions. I give you an example. I'm not going to mention names of microbes because they are very nice, but they are very difficult
Yes,
for
of
the
course.
audience. All right. But if we find a specific bacterium that is very low and we need to have it and cultivate it, all right, there is a specific ingredient like inulin that needs to go in. Okay. Now, inulin, we don't provide supplements because we looking at large intestines. We need to give diet ingredients. Okay.
Hmm.
And there are specific ingredients that have high inulin content, and therefore we list them down, recommend them to because it's a teamwork. Okay, so we
Yeah.
have the team includes testing, which I had. Then there are the exercise and nutrition scientists that look into the nutrition and exercise regimes. So, and then we have the psychologists that look at the anxiety and stress management. So it's a teamwork. It's not one person does all the. It's a professional team that we go into the individual sort of pillars, lifestyle medicine pillars, and we provide the interventions. Okay, so but what I'm meaning is the exercise nutrition scientist then will be provided with a recommended list according to the data. All
Hmm.
right, and they integrate that into a balanced diet and making sure that the diet is still balanced after integration of the interventions. Ingredients, foods, it depends. It depends. There are today a lot of fermented foods that are coming into play in regulating microbial abundance and diversity. There are specific ingredients that have very high inulin, like Jerusalem artichokes, very asparagus. Okay, but these are, I'm giving just an example,
Yeah,
these
yeah,
are very
yeah.
high in inulin, and it's important to put them in the diet. Um, and we have other ingredients, of course, depending on the individual's disbalance.
So this actually can cause anxiety and stress, or is it
Well, it's,
anxiety and stress that actually causes the symptoms, or is it this that can actually cause one anxiety and
yeah.
stress?
Okay, so yeah, it's a very interesting as well. So it goes two ways. So
Okay.
a disbalance in the microbes might have what might result in a disbalance or reduction in the production of the chemicals that
Hmm.
are important for the brain function. Okay,
Oh,
and then that can create anxiety. Okay, so like dopamine, for instance, that there's a deficiency in dopamine, then it would create an imbalance also in brain function. Okay, and there's kicks in anxiety, stress, and other things. Okay, so anxiety and stress in itself also produce hormones that would need to increase the energy immediately to run because you need to fly. Yeah,
yeah.
but you're not doing it. So basically, what happens is that the body decides to stop a vital function. And the only vital function that we can stop is the intestine. We cannot stop the heart. Okay, we can stop the intestine. And therefore, it becomes a vicious circle in which that you don't produce enough chemicals. There is stress, there is anxiety. Anxiety creates hormonal imbalances. Cortisol is increased. Cortisol stops the intestines. Less chemicals are produced. So it becomes a vicious circle. And it's important to actually look at the cause. And the cause is the production of these chemicals in the intestines. So it needs to be rebalanced.
It affects a lot. And you mentioned joint pain. It can cause joint pain.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That is more related to immune function
Okay.
and inflammation. So when there is a chronic inflammation, what is a chronic inflammation? Inflammation is an important process and it's protective. Okay.
Okay.
But when we're not capable to resolve it, it increases and becomes chronic, continuous. Okay. Meaning that it's always activating immunity. So if it's always activating immunity, if there's a trigger for an immune reaction, it becomes an allergic reaction immediately because it's already high and it would increase it. And this is one of the issues of joint pains. Okay, so an immediate, intense, increased immune function, which would result in pains. So yes, there is a direct link as well between intestinal function and immune function. And in fact, we just launched a program in London
Yeah.
on immune function with a consultant immunologist. So we work with we work of course with professional and clinicians to set up these health but these don't come immediately, you know. So
Yeah.
it's not that I woke up yesterday and said, oh, okay, let me go to London and I have to innovate this health
Yeah.
program. What happens is that we need also to educate everyone,
Yeah.
and therefore this was launched because we've been working for 1 whole year. They were referring patients to us. We were doing the disbalance. We found that more than 80% of specific areas in immune dysfunction is related to a disbalance in the intestinal microbes. Okay, we call that dysbiosis. Okay, so when there is a disbalance in the microbes, and they found that more than 80% of their patients will have severe dysbiosis. So, okay, let's work on the intestines. Okay, my team goes in, works on it. We reestablish the intestines. Their patients are doing better. Then is a opportunity. That's the opportunity where we innovate a program together. So it doesn't happen quickly. That's why
Yeah.
entrepreneurship is quite stressful as well in itself. All right, because it
Yes.
takes time. It takes time. It takes a lot of work until it is the right time. You just need to identify the right time
Yeah.
to hit it. Okay, so that's the important thing.
Wow. And what would happen if it was left untreated? You had all the symptoms. What would happen if you didn't treat or do anything about it?
Yeah, unfortunately, a dysbiosis, which is a disbalance in these bacteria, would eventually lead to a severe disbalance, which is related to inflammatory bowel disease. So now inflammatory bowel disease needs to be treated with medicines. We do provide the program as well, the lifestyle medicine program for inflammatory bowel disease patients, but we do that complementary to the treatment because they need treatment because then there is damage. Okay, there is damage in the lining, there's a lot of inflammation, and the intestines are damaged. So we need to treat, but we still need to provide the program as complementary to that treatment. Okay, so yeah, there's a problem there. And inflammatory bowel disease then would have a risk, a lifetime risk, a very high lifetime risk to develop colorectal cancer. And this is now feeds why I'm doing this. I want to prevent
Oh,
colorectal cancer. I want to prevent inflammatory disease. To do that, find the cause very early. And if we find the cause very early, we treat it. And I have an analogy that I always use, which is a flame on a match. A
yeah.
flame on a match, okay? This, I think you will blow the flame before it reaches your fingers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I always ask, why do you stop it? Why do you blow the flame? And
Yeah.
everybody would say, oh, so that I don't know, so that I don't burn my finger, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that you blow it because you see it. Because
Yeah.
if you don't see it, it will burn your finger.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why we always say we measure so that we see, we intervene according to the result so that we restore.
How do you know if you've got that inflammatory disease? What symptoms would you have at that stage?
Yeah, at that stage, when it is a disease,
Yeah.
then unfortunately, the symptoms would include blood in the
Mm.
stools. It's quite so it's a problem because there's damage. So you find blood in the stools. So yeah,
Yeah.
so we don't want to go there. We want to see the flame before.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely,
And
definitely.
unfortunately, we need to do this kind of programs. Yes. I mean, what I'm saying,
Wow.
unfortunately, because the clinical setting doesn't see it. If you do a routine blood test, we don't see chronic inflammation. We see acute, but not chronic. So we need additional programs to prevent disease.
I'm
That's
just
our
trying to
sector.
get at, like, say if someone, hadn't thought about this and they hadn't, been tested, or, they haven't had they haven't been checked and they haven't had these kind of tests done, and they've kind of left it. And then they get to the stage where it becomes a disease because, they wasn't sure about getting tested in the first place for anything like this because the symptoms were quite not mild, like you say. There are a lot of different symptoms, but just speaking to the people that don't know or didn't know that anything was happening, if it got to that stage, in addition to the blood in the stools, would they be seeing things like, I don't know, tiredness, or would there be more anxiety, or would there be pain, more
Yeah.
physical pain?
So yes, yes. So anxiety is one of them. It's important if there's anxious people, it's important to have a look at the intestinal function because it is the main driver. Okay.
Wow.
If there are joint pains, that is also important to look at dysbiosis because it's one of the drivers as well. So, but even I always say the same thing. So, um, please be health conscious. Okay, you don't need to feel anything to make sure that you have the right balance so that you have the right production of health promoting substances. You don't, so be health conscious. Even if you don't focus, if you're not focused or you lose focus very easily, or you have fatigue, okay, those are already signs that there is a disbalance in your metabolic health, and your metabolic health is the central part of it is intestinal function.
Wow. Wow. So there's a lot of things where people could feel stressed or anxious and they just think it's due to something outside of yourself. I know I do. I think I'm stressed because of this, or I'm anxious because of this. And, you tend to think it's something that's happened or something outside of yourself. But what you're saying is it might actually be something internal, and it might be down to
Yeah,
this imbalance because it's affecting
yeah,
a lot.
yeah. I mean, the imbalance might be triggered by stress events.
Yeah.
Okay, because as I said, if there are stress events, there are hormones being produced to stop the intestinal function. Stopping intestinal function is also related to setting up a disbalance.
Hmm.
Okay, so
Hmm.
there are definitely events that have happened so that there is a disbalance. So, and stress is one of them. Okay, so yeah, but then it becomes a vicious circle in that case if there is a disbalance. All right.
Yeah.
And there might be an excessive use of antibiotics sometimes that would result in a disbalance. And antibiotics are important
Yeah.
when needed, okay? And they are lifesavers when needed. I'm not saying that one should not take antibiotics.
Yeah.
But if there is a long event of antibiotics and somebody is like, I had teachers, for instance, and they tell me, I'm always sick because I'm at school, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
We had teachers that did the program and they actually told us, oh, this is the first time in October and November I'm not sick. Because the immunity, okay, now is strong enough, okay, rather than having a constant immune release and reaction, okay, because you remove the chronic inflammation, yeah, then your immune cells are ready to kickstart when they actually need it. All right. So we also see that if there is somebody who is sort of always sick, yeah, All right. So
Yeah.
continuously, that's already an indication that the immune function is not working properly, and immune function is totally related to chronic inflammation of the intestines.
Oh my gosh. I mean, you're saying everything that's wrong with me. I think I need to get tested. Like, how would you go about it then? How would you, do you have to go and see like a specialist? Like, if someone's in a different country, let's say, and they can't come to your program, like what would be the first
Yeah.
approach to get tested and get this sorted?
Yes. So, first of all, yeah, I cannot sort of. They know me now, so it's like it's a lifestyle medicine expert. Yeah.
Okay.
So we are also setting up partnership throughout Europe currently. So we also
Okay.
offer it in Madrid, in London,
Okay.
in Brussels. So we are expanding towards Europe. And it is a lifestyle medicine team.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We always have as well integrated with it specialists in different areas, because if we find that there is a severe dysbiosis, we refer to a gastroenterologist, for instance, as a specialist. So there is a lot of referral as well. But the important thing is that a lifestyle medicine clinic can drive these programs.
Okay.
Um, uh, so that's what we do. Um, uh, so so the specialists are a gut health expert, a exercise nutrition scientist, which has registered nutritionists as well, which are we run a team here, for instance, psychologists, immune consultants that refer, gastroenterologists that refer to the program, so different people can refer to the program.
Wow, this is incredible. And let's say we get someone who comes, they have a test, everything's fine, but they don't want to even, they want to keep their balance right and healthy. Is there anything they can do to even prevent it all that way back, if that makes sense? Is there anything they can do before they even get to the stage where there's an imbalance?
Yeah, and so yes, so we tend to. It's important to take care of the factors that affect these disbalances, and as I said, they include some of them we cannot really regulate and control, because age is one of them, so we cannot do anything about that. But we can age well, yeah,
Yeah.
with this program, of course. Then there is diets, as I said, so it's important to have a balanced diet. And it's important to understand. So I also provide a lot of knowledge, yeah, and a lot of information related to what triggers this disbalance. And I will provide some links if that's possible.
Yes, of course.
Where we give all information about the diet, not the diet, but diet interventions. There are endocrine disruptors. So there are various things. Yeah. So I also organized a LinkedIn article series, which we started a few months ago,
Yeah.
where there is a lot of articles and shows what is the effect, what are the factors affecting this balance. So knowledge, I think, is extremely important.
It's really
The
important. It's extremely important because I wouldn't know where to start in terms of having the types of foods and the ingredients that you mentioned earlier. I wouldn't know where to look to find those ingredients. I know you mentioned asparagus, but I didn't know that it had that specific ingredient in, so I wouldn't even know where to find that information. So you're saying you obviously have links, but people can do reading up on the certain ingredients that help with this balance.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's also very difficult, because if you don't do the test and therefore you don't know where you are, yeah, then
Yeah.
it's going to be very difficult to make sure how the interventions are going to be. But having the knowledge of what one should do to avoid chronic inflammation, it's also extremely important as to avoid to avoid these conditions. But to do the exact intervention, of course, we need, you need data. You cannot do intervention. So that particular example was related to a particular bacterium, which some patients would have a deficiency of. So even myself, if I don't do the test myself, then on my own test, then I don't know what I should be exactly eating, but I know that it's important to have a balanced diet, starting at least from like an anti-inflammatory balanced diet. Yeah.
Yeah, like you say, it's specific to specific individuals, basically. But I wanted to ask, because when I looked at this before, there is a lot of kind of over-the-counter stuff. What are your thoughts on that? I think there was one called, is it berberine or something? And then there was some other probiotic tablets that you can take. And, what do you think about those?
Good. I mean, good question, and also a big answer to that. So, for instance, if we think about probiotics that you get from over the counter, for instance, from a chemist, it mainly provides only 3 families of microbes as active ingredients, whilst when we read to look at the imbalance in the intestines, we read about 50 families. So it's not only, so it's only fits only 3, and that makes sense because most of our bacteria in the large intestines do not tolerate oxygen, so we cannot really provide them orally. So they are helpful, but they are not related to the disbalances that we might have in the intestines. In terms of other supplementation, so there are various, as you said, various supplementations. We also provide supplementations in the program. And one of the main supplements that we provide is actually to rebalance the lipid, to resolve inflammation, like the omega-6, omega-3. We find a lot of omega-3 rich oils, for instance, extremely important within the program, but we always stick to the same type. Because in the programs, we do the test before and we do the test after 6 months, and we show that happened. So that the balance now is in place in terms of lipids. Because it's a easy test, easy solution. The microbial balancing is a very complex solution. A lot of biochemistry goes into it. So, but this is really an easy intervention in terms of lipid rebalancing, but we also use a specific type because we've tested number of supplements, and we find that there is a specific supplement that gives us what we want within the program in terms of metrics in 6 months. Even vitamin D, for instance. We see a lot of vitamins all over the place, So vitamin D, we also have a specific one because we know that in 6 months, we're going to increase it. So we've gone all through these kind of research to actually make sure that we intervene. And when we intervene, we show that we actually did it, not get something off the counter, try this, try that. No, this is not the way we work. No.
And how important is, because you mentioned exercise is an important factor, how important is this in relation to the health of your intestines?
So exercise is important because when we contract muscles, in exercise, we also produce what are called myokines. Myokines are chemicals. All right. And that is related to release of specific chemicals from the intestinal. They have a lot of effects, but one of the effects is also release of very health-promoting substances from the gut lining cells. So there's a direct relationship between exercise and also gut lining integrity. I mean, absolutely important.
So you mentioned an element of exercise, you mentioned an element of diet, and then you mentioned the lifestyle where, you have these social communities. And, I just want to touch on that because I've never heard of that before. And I don't know how I'd feel, going to a place and talking about, you know, my health and so on. Like, how valuable is this? And, do people get a lot out of these social communities?
Yeah, actually, yes, because they trigger actually the production of these what we call, yeah, pay attention to the terminologies here. So we call
Okay.
them neurotransmitters.
Okay.
Neurotransmitters are is a chemical that transmits signals in the nervous system.
Okay.
Okay, so transmitters and neuro, yeah. So it's a
Hmm.
chemical that transmits signals in the nervous system, and 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 it affects them. It affects the production of these transmitters of these particular chemicals, and we really need those. And we need those also for hormonal balance. Because when we affect moods, when we affect emotions, we're also affecting hormonal balances. So, yeah, I mean, social connection, we don't prescribe normally, but in lifestyle medicine, that is an important aspect. As important as diet, as important as exercise.
Wow.
Okay, but it needs to be a good social connection. What I'm meaning is you don't need to go out and
Party and
just party and whatever.
yeah.
You have to balance everything out. Yeah,
That's actually really interesting because as an entrepreneur, and I know a lot of other entrepreneurs, we do sometimes kind of isolate ourselves because we're not in a work environment, so we're not mixing with people in work. And then, we're working so hard on a business, and sometimes we'll be working so many hours in a day. I remember at one point I was working 14 to 16 hours a day, and my social life went down, and I wasn't really, communicating with many people. I was just so focused. And that is the same for quite a few entrepreneurs. I had a friend of mine who started his business, and he would say, I don't go out anywhere. I'm quite lonely. And, it actually starts to get to you a little bit. So I can see how there is a relation into having that. It's really important, actually.
absolutely, absolutely. I think that the best program that I innovated was the program which I discussed with a lot of people.
Yeah.
So we have to open up a bit in terms of course, we don't need to spread our innovations, and but it's important to take different aspects and integrate things, and that's also a connection, which is maybe the social connection for the entrepreneurs is between entrepreneurs. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah. So
A
it's
lot.
extremely important, and it keeps people focused because that is also critical in entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Okay, it can become too demanding sometimes, and therefore you close yourself. One would start losing focus as well. Okay, so that's one has to pay attention to that
How
aspect.
do we, what are the triggers for kind of losing focus? Is that just due to not having that social interaction, or again, is that going back to the imbalance issues and so on? Is that creating a loss of focus as well?
Yeah, so everything is not one factor, okay? Everything is multifactorial. Okay, that's very important. So social connection is something that would trigger the production of the chemical, but if you don't have the right nutrients, if you don't have the right metabolic health, if you don't have the right intestinal function, you don't produce it anyway. So it's important that you look into this as a multifactorial aspect, that you need the right metabolic health, therefore the right intestinal function. You need the right social connection. You need to produce those, but you need also the kitchen to
Yeah.
produce them. Yeah? The nutrients and also
Yeah.
all these conversions that we need with our friends. the microbes.
This is incredible. Look, I could talk to you all day. I've got so many questions about my health, but let me just ask before we kind of wrap up, because I know we're conscious of time, but how would I, let's say myself or anybody else, what would be the first steps that we should take if we are thinking, okay, look, you know, some of the symptoms and the things that you've been talking about today, they are, you know, I am starting to think, okay, maybe I need to have these tests and I need to get checked, or I need to look into it. What are the steps that you would say that, you know, people would need to go through to start this process, basically?
Yeah, I mean, we can provide, as I said, information. Within that information, we can
Yeah.
also provide um, free online health talks. From that particular information, then, you know, so you get knowledge. If
Yeah.
then one would believe that this program will going to help out, then of course they can interact with us and we can guide them towards how to do it, because doing the tests is very logistically relatively easy, because
Okay.
also we made sure that sampling is also sort of stable for 14 days at room temperature. The bloods can be sent abroad, so we get samples from various areas in Europe. So even logistically, it's doable. So yeah,
Is there a
it's
website, or
yeah,
is
it's
everything on your LinkedIn?
yes. No, no. There is of course the website of the clinics. We are also, as I said, setting partnerships in different countries, so we can always relate to particular partners within a specific country.
Yeah. I mean, I
Yes,
can add,
we do have, of course.
yeah, I can add some links, but what is the website address? One of the main website addresses.
Yeah. Oh, I just spelled it out, you mean? Okay, okay.
Yes,
So
yes,
we
yes.
the the main website, clinical website, the clinics is dlevelhealthhub.com. Yeah, but we can always provide you with the links. Yeah.
Yes, perfect, perfect. Okay, and then people just contact you, and like you say, it's really easy to take these tests, even if you're abroad. And then from that, you'll get the results, analyze the results, and then it will be kind of a meeting or a consultation. And
There will
then,
be consultations, yes, with the experts, and that can be also organized online.
yeah.
So yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah, of course, it's a process. Okay, it's a journey. It's not
Yeah.
something you have this, you take this, and it's solved. It's a journey. Okay.
Yeah. So
We, in
it's
general,
over
most of our
time.
programs, yes, all our programs are 6 months long or 8 months long. You know, it's a journey. Yeah.
And it's probably not a case of stopping even after those 6 to 8 months. It's probably staying and implementing what, even when you
Yeah.
go
So
back,
we
right?
So what we try to do our best in coaching. So we
Um,
coach the individual about what we see. So we don't just send a report. We send the report. We explain it. We actually explain the recommendations, what we're doing and why. So we go into the science depends on the level of discussions. So that our main focus is to coach, so that in 6 months' time or 8 months' time, a person becomes self-sufficient in maintaining a lifestyle change. Because this is lifestyle medicine. So
yeah.
that's our aim. Doesn't mean that we are not here after 8 months or after 6 months. We are always available, but the idea is to coach someone to become self-sustainable in lifestyle changing.
Incredible. Look, you have been amazing. I just want to thank you so much for giving all of this, you know, free advice. It's amazing. And, you know, there's a lot that I didn't even know, and I'm sure our audience is going to be the same. And, you know, look, I will be reaching out to you myself, to be honest, but I'm sure a lot of our audience will as well, because it does have an impact, like you say, mentally, physically. So, you know, it's important, especially as business owners and, you know, trying to change your career and your life and everything else. This is something that should be a part of that. Like you say, it's a lifestyle change. So this is really important. And like I say, I want to say thank you for coming on to the podcast and just sharing all of this with us. It's been amazing.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Will do.
Thank you. Bye.
Same back. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.